All right, welcome everybody. So if you haven't, grab your strap or scarf, also a block and your other usual props, nothing else too special, I think, today. And I'm gonna start laying down on my back in constructive rest pose. You're welcome to join me there. If you have another shape you'd rather start in, that's totally fine. And you may just wanna have your strap kind of at hand so you can grab it when you need it. Constructive rest is laying on the back with the knees bent and the feet on the floor. And the feet can just widen a bit so that the knees can fall in together. They don't necessarily have to touch, but the idea is just that the legs are relaxed, that you're not having to kind of hold them up. I like to have my hands on my belly here. It can be just nice to feel the rise and fall of the belly, but that's optional. And if at this point you want to add anything like some support under your neck, for example, or something to cover your eyes, feel free to do that just to make it a little bit more comfortable. And then start to deepen into your breath. Maybe that means sighing, maybe it means just deepening, maybe it just means noticing your natural breath. As you're settling into the earth, you might be noticing some little fidgets or movements that your body is craving. You might be noticing that your body wants to breathe in a certain way. You might be noticing that you're still very much in your mind and that it takes a bit of effort to come into your body, and that's totally fine. That's part of what we're doing here. Starting to offer some focus to your body. And that might be, for example, how your body feels in connection with the ground beneath you. You might be comfortable going in a little bit deeper and noticing just sensations or emotions that you have present today. And take a moment, if you haven't yet, to acknowledge the land that you're on, particular place in the world, and how you are in relationship with it. How you're receiving the seasons, which many of us are kind of feeling the shift in that lately. How you may have, well, we all do have some history with the land that we're on, short or long. And checking in with any particular intentions that you might notice arising from your body, anything that you might need from your practice today in particular, or that you want to keep in mind. And then when you feel ready, we can start to add a little bit of movement. This doesn't have to be anything big. I'm feeling just a gentle windshield wiper, for example. So you can keep your feet pretty much where they are. Just start to rock your knees from side to side like windshield wipers. You could stretch your arms out open, nice and wide, and let your head turn away from your knees. And if you're in some other shape, if you haven't been laying on the ground on your back, I'll invite you to join us here. If it's not going to work for you to lay on your back today, you can certainly stay seated and do the shapes in seated. From here, I'm just going to draw my knees into my chest and rock a little bit from side to side, just kind of feeling into my lower back. And then I'm going to extend my arms and my legs up to the sky. And just rotate the wrists and the ankles a few times. Just kind of noticing these extremities, reversing the direction of the circle. If there's tightness here, if there's little crackles, which I almost always find crackles when I do this. And then maybe there's a little shake if that feels good for you. You can add. And then place your feet on the mat again and reach for your strap or scarf or anything that you can, that's long that you can kind of tug on. And we'll take the right leg up towards the sky and wrap the strap around the ball of the foot. You can keep your left foot as it is on the ground, or you can straighten it right out. See how that feels. Okay, so start with flexing your right foot and just gently pressing the heel up to the sky as you draw down on the strap. So I'm holding one end of the strap in each hand, and I'm just gently drawing down. So my aim here is to get into my calf. You can explore how much of a bend you want in your knee here. You can certainly have some bend in the knee. And again, the aim is to work into the calf here. So we want to get that lovely stretch at the back of the calf. We'll get into the hamstring a little bit more in a moment. So really when we're working the calf, it's the flex of the foot that is the key. And if you're already feeling your hamstring, that's fine. Of course, they're going to be connected. Okay, we'll make it a little more hamstring focused if we bring the strap and the leg a little closer to the face. So we'll just probably start to feel the stretch moving down a little bit towards the back of the thigh. Again, you can have as much of bend in your knee as you need here. And if you continue to work with that flex in the foot, so you're kind of drawing down on the ball of the foot and also forward, you'll likely still feel your calf. It might help to activate the left leg a little bit, just getting it nice and anchored. And I also, this is subtle, but I find it helpful to slightly externally rotate the leg. So another way of saying that is draw my right sit bone in towards my left. Another way of saying that same thing is outer right thigh is rolling down a little bit. Another way of saying that is right bum moving a little bit towards the left heel. And you might just feel the stretch differently. Awesome. Okay, when you're ready, you can just ease up a little bit so that the heel is roughly over your hip again, if it's not. Hold on to both ends of the strap with your right hand. I've got my left hand on my left thigh here. If your knee is bent, you can just keep it as it is. And I'm opening the leg to the right side. So I'm coming into a nice opening for the inner thigh. And I just conveniently have my wall right here. So I actually have my foot resting on the wall, which is nice. It's just giving me a little bit of extra support. I also like to bring my elbow down. Now, this is going to depend a little bit on, of course, you know, how open your hip goes in this direction. Your elbow might not be anywhere close to the ground. It's not a goal to get it there or anything. I'm just providing the leg a little bit of support so that I can stretch without feeling like I'm going too far. So you might find that you're just using your strap or the muscles of your leg to do that a little bit more. You might want to draw the foot just slightly towards your face. And again, we're just looking for a stretch here. We're not doing anything too crazy. So just go to that place that feels right for you. And the left hand on the left thigh is just helping to ground the left thigh. And that if the knee's bent, you'll sort of be doing that already. Nice deep breaths. Okay, and then when you're ready, we'll gently bring the leg back up through center and hold the two ends of the strap with the left hand. I'm going to take my right thumb into my right hip crease and just encourage that slight external rotation. It's not a big movement. It's just kind of grounding the hip down so it doesn't start popping up towards my shoulder. I want to keep the hip nice and long. And I'm going to bring the leg across my body. So I find for myself, I don't need to go very far to start feeling this already. For me, it's like, whoo, okay. Hello, thank you outside of the leg. There's sort of the IT band there. There's some outer part of the calf that you can feel there. So your hip is staying down and you're just getting that little bit of an across the body stretch. You might be bringing the foot slightly towards your face, but that's not going to be necessarily a visible movement. It's more of a direction. And if you do have your knee bent, you might need to just adjust it a little bit. And I actually find it quite helpful to allow the bent left knee to point to the right. It'll just help you with that little bit of a cross. Okay, so you can stay right here, or we can bring this into a twist. You can let the foot come all the way to the floor on the left, and that means your right hip is going to be coming off the mat. The foot may or may not touch the ground, but you can open your right arm up and take a little bit of a twist here. If this is uncomfortable at all, you can release the strap and have your knee bent, or even both of your knees together. Nice deep breaths. And then when you're ready, just gently coming back up through center, softly release your leg from the strap. You might want to have both feet on the floor or both legs out long. Just take a moment to feel the difference in the two sides of the legs. I always feel this in my lower back as well. In a positive way, I always find it helps my lower back feel better. Right now, you might be feeling a little bit asymmetrical, but that's fine. Just kind of notice what is available to you here. As I'm kind of visualizing my two legs, they definitely look different to me in my mind's eye. The right one that we just worked on feels like it's kind of softer and longer. Just noticing that for yourself. And then when you're ready, we'll come to the second side. So you can bend up your knees again just to start. Wrap that strap around the ball of your left foot. Keep your right foot bent as it is, or you can straighten out the leg. This is my one that needs it. This leg is already, I'm feeling a lot here. So again, we're working on getting into the calf, which means flexing the foot. So drawing the strap down, holding the two edges. As much of a bend in your knee as you need is great, and you're just pressing the heel up to the sky. The heel stays roughly over the hip for this. You can bring it in towards your face a little bit, but our focus again here is the calf. And just try to find those nice deep breaths. And then we'll shift it a little bit into that hamstring. So we're just bringing the leg towards the face slightly. You might not have a visible change there. It might just be the direction that you're working. And we're not forcing anything. It's more of a supportive direction rather than a pulling, if that makes sense. Again, you can have as much of a bend in your knee here as is useful for you. And you might find it helpful to find that slight external rotation. So kind of drawing that left hip down. Again, another way of saying that is lengthening the left side waist. All those cues kind of mean roughly the same thing. So whichever one works for you in your mind is great. And then when you're ready, hold the two ends of the strap in your left hand and place the right palm on your right thigh if your leg is straight. And just gently bring the leg open as far as is comfortable for you. Again, we're not trying to force anything here. I'm pretty flexible in this direction. So I do have my elbow on the ground. I don't want to be just hanging in space because I find for me, even if I could go a little further, it doesn't feel so good for me and my kind of tendons. I don't want to overdo it because I know I do tend to be relatively flexible in this range. So I want to stay in a place that feels quite safe and supported, but where I'm still getting that nice opening into my inner thigh. Okay, and again, you could work with a little bit of bringing the foot towards your face if that works for you. Keep the foot nice and active. Breathing nice and deep. And then when you're ready, you can come back up through center, hold the two edges of the strap in your right hand and take the left thumb into your hip crease. So you're just going to kind of ground the hip down, keep it connected, and the outer hip is rolling towards the bottom of the mat. And then you're just taking the foot across any amount, which again, for me, woo, this leg has a lot to say today. And if you've got your right knee bent, it might be helpful to turn the knee a little bit to the left. So slightly drawing towards the face. Again, not really a pulling, but just supporting in that direction. Deep breaths. And then you can take this into a twist, bringing the foot all the way towards the floor on the other side. Just shift a little bit so I'm not hitting that wall. And if it's too much this way, feel free to release the strap, just bending the knee or stacking the knees on top of each other. Left arm can open to the left and you can look to the left as well. And I'm still holding the foot with the strap myself, but it's not actually touching the floor. That would be just, it would feel just a little too far for me. So I'm keeping it a bit elevated. Nice. And then when you feel ready, just gently bringing everything back through center. You can release the strap, release the legs, maybe both feet on the ground or both legs extended out like Shavasana. And just take a few moments to receive, to feel the difference in the two legs, or maybe they feel a little more similar now. If there's any kind of wiggling you feel like you want to do, go for it. If you want to just be still and receive for a few moments, that's great too. Okay, so let's place our feet on the mat if they're not there already, just underneath the knees. And we can start by placing the hands on the hips here as well. Let's check in with the lower back a little bit in the core. So as you inhale, tilt the pelvis forward, arching the back gently. Your tailbone is still down. And then as you exhale, gather your pelvic floor in and up, scoop your belly button back towards your heart and flatten your lower back to the ground. And then do that with your breath. So as you inhale, you're arching the back, releasing the belly. And as you exhale, gathering in pelvic floor, core, flattening the back, sort of curling the tailbone a little bit. I'm just feeling into that a couple of times. When we do these pelvic tilts nice and slow, Sometimes it's interesting just to notice how it feels. I've been noticing quite a bit of tension in my lower back lately. And one of the things that can be interesting too is, does it feel like my back moves evenly through this tilt, or does it kind of wobble a little from side to side, like there are little imbalances from side to side? And it's not that we're judging anything that we find, we're just kind of gathering information. And then we'll just relax, coming into a nice neutral spine, breathing into the belly, feeling that. Okay, so we're going to work into some gentle core. You can keep your head on the ground like this, or you can interlace your fingers behind the back of the head and lift your shoulder blades up. That's just going to add a little bit more of your abdominal muscles to this work, specifically the upper abdominals. Try to keep your jaw and your neck relatively relaxed. Keep your spine relatively neutral, but gather in the pelvic floor and the belly button in and up. Okay, we'll start with our marching. So as you inhale, just lifting up the right foot. Then as you exhale, gently putting it back down. And then the left and putting it back down. Okay, so just taking a couple of these to kind of get a gauge for how your core is feeling today. How your lower back is feeling as well. And if this is feeling good, it's working for you, please feel free to keep going this way. I'm just going to offer a little add-on if you want to try. Okay. So I'm just going to slowly come back to my right leg so that I can teach with my own rhythm here. So as with the marching, I'm going to lift up my right knee as we talked about. And then I'm going to bring it down, straighten the leg. It doesn't have to go all the way to straight, keeping the core nice and engaged. Lift the straight leg gently up, bend it in towards my body. But rather than putting the foot down, I'm going to lift it up again and lower that straight leg down to the ground. And then slide the foot back up in so that the 2 feet are beside each other. And then I'll do that on the other side. So I'm lifting up the left knee, bringing it down, sliding the foot along the floor, lifting it up, bending the knee without placing the foot on the floor, straightening the leg again. Straight leg towards the floor. Don't be afraid to bend your knee if your lower back is not comfortable. And then sliding the foot back up to that starting position. Okay, so that's the rhythm of it. Straightening the right leg, inhaling up, bend the knee, inhaling up, straight leg comes down, and bringing the knee back. And you can exhale in between just to go nice and slow. Inhaling left leg, bring it down, straighten. That's an exhale. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, bending. Inhale, straighten. And extend. Inhale, back up. And you can exhale in between if that works for you. So I don't mind too much if you move the breath around. Okay, it's not going to matter too much here because we're not in a super compressed position at any point. But just try to have your breath and your body kind of moving together so that you're nice and conscious of how you're going. And whatever you're doing with your body, whether you're marching or you're adding this sort of stately pace of the straight leg, just keeping that core nice and connected inward so that the belly is not popping forward at any point. And if this starts to feel like too much, just go back to the marching or even just take a full break, okay? We're just kind of challenging the core in different places. Try to keep the jaw relaxed. You can always put your head down at any point. So I'm just going to do one more each side. which is quite a few breaths. Last side. Beautiful. And then just when you complete that sequence, relax. You can take soles of the feet together, knees open wide, or knees together, feet wide. I'm just letting my arms go open in a T and taking a few conscious breaths into the belly. Lovely. Okay, let's take a nice twist from here. So you can bring your knees up if they're not already. Shift your hips an inch or two to the right. Pick up your knees and bring them down to the left. If this is uncomfortable in your lower back, feel free to put a block in between your knees. I often like to adjust this just by rolling to my left and then resetting my twist. I find that it gives me a little bit more opening into my back and a little less in my lower back, which I personally like. This should feel pretty comfortable. If anything about it doesn't feel right for you, adjust. You can widen your knees. You can come out of the twist and lay on your side if you need to. If it's your hand that's tingling, you can put your hand on your rib. This is intended to feel pretty comfortable, and a lot of people find that the supine twist is quite soothing, quite calming. So just notice if it's having that effect for you. It may or may not be. Beautiful. And then from here, go ahead and roll onto your left side and support your head in your hand or on your arm or on a pillow. Take a moment to make sure that you've got a little natural curve in your lower back. You can have your right hand in front of you. And I would have the knees just slightly pointed down from the hip, so you might need to adjust them a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of work into the outer hip, which is our sort of butt core, as I like to call it. So go ahead and straighten your right leg. And we're going to do a nice sort of looping motion similar to our core and our back. So we're going to take the leg behind us a little bit and up towards the sky. Exhale, bring the foot down. Forward any amount. The farther forward you come, the more challenging this is going to be. And then lift the leg up. Exhale, bring it down. So it's just making a nice little U shape, and it could be a small U or a bigger one. Whatever you're doing, keep your hips nice and steady. And again, keep in mind that the farther forward you bring your foot, the more intense the work is going to be in your outer hip. So just go slow, try to keep your core gently engaged. Just getting these different areas of the outer hip. There's no rush. I'd love to try for about 8 of these. And that's about 1 more for me from my count, which is intuitive because I can't count and talk at the same time. I'm just bad at that. As long as I've been teaching yoga, I haven't quite mastered that one. Okay, we're going to release, bringing the knees together. And you can take your soft fist and just gently pad out the outer hip. And then come to laying on your back again, and you might want to hug your knees in, rock a little bit from side to side. And then place your feet on the mat, shift your hips a little bit to the left, pick up your knees and come into a twist on the other side. So again, you don't have to do this, but I quite like just rolling all the way to my side to reset my twist. I find that it just always feels a little bit better for me when I do that. So you're welcome to try that and see if it works for you too. Left arm opens to the left, knees are roughly together. You could have a block between them. You could move them down away from your face if this feels like a little bit too much. This shouldn't hurt your back at all. Again, ideally it feels good. If something is funky with your shoulder or your hand, just put your hand on your rib. Usually that solves it. Just try to find some nice deep breaths into the belly, into that left lung. I've definitely been noticing the smoke in my lungs over the last little while since it's been smoky air. And it can feel really nice just to get those deep breaths in to help your lungs to clear themselves, especially in movement. Let's take another nice deep breath here. Beautiful. And then we'll roll to laying on our right side. You can support your head with your hand. Nice natural curve in the low back. Knees might be a little bit pointed down from your chest. That bottom knee is just going to support your top leg as you're moving it. A little bit of engagement through the core. Straighten out that left leg. I'm working with pointed toes. The leg goes a little bit behind and up. And again, doesn't matter how high up. Bring the knee down, forward. So roughly in the direction of your bottom knee is probably going to be plenty. You could bring it right in front of you if you want. That's just going to be more intense. And try to keep the core and the hip nice and steady as you move through this big U shape. Roughly following your breath if you can. Taking your time. Nice steady breaths. And again, we're aiming for around 8, or when you start to feel that fatigue happening. And by my count, which I have been at least trying to count here while talking, that's about 2 more. And then after you're around 8, just relax. You can take your soft fist and gently pat out any areas of the hip that feel like they're kind of reacting. And then let's come to hands and knees. You can spread your fingers nice and wide under your shoulders or be on fists. Knees under your hips, toes tucked or not is fine. And let's just work through some cat and cow. So we've been doing a lot of work laying on our backs, working with the core and the hips, the lower back, with some twists. So just working into cat and cow and noticing what you're feeling. So you're more than welcome to have your eyes closed. Inhaling into a little back bend, exhaling to curl the spine. And feel free to add on. You can make circles. You can move side to side, just see what feels good. And if it's feeling like a good idea for you, you could bring this up into downward facing dog. Tucking the toes and lifting the hips up. I like the hands a bit wider for downward dog. Slight bend to the elbows, but you can keep moving intuitively. So bending one knee at a time, continuing to massage out those, the backs of your legs, the feet a little bit. As you're rocking your hips, just kind of feeling that. And then let's come forward to the belly. So you're welcome to use your knees, or you could come through a full plank off your knees if you want to, and lower all the way down to the ground. And if you're not on your belly today, you can just stay on your hands and your knees, or come to seated and do the shapes with your arms in seated, okay? Let's do a little bit of work into the upper back here. Let's start with cactus arms, pointing the toes, pressing the pubic bone down, squeezing the bum lightly. Engage your core. And then gently lift the chest up away from the mat. The elbows will come up a bit too. Exhale and lower down. If you want to come up higher, all you have to do is bring your hands a little closer to your body. Give you a little more leverage. Keep the lower body nice and steady. Just enjoying the breaths here. This is another nice way of almost massaging the lungs, especially when we breathe with the movement. Okay, and the next time you come up, if it's feeling good, you could hold the cobra a little bit longer, a couple breaths. Hugging the elbows in, really lengthening. You might feel a nice stretch to the core that we worked. And then gently release down. You can rest your forehead on stacked palms or your chin on the ground, whatever feels comfortable for you. Relax your heels and your bum. You can give your bum a little shake side to side if you want. Okay, and then you're gonna stay down with your upper body for now, but just have a symmetrical head. So forehead or chin on the ground or on your hands is fine, okay? Engage the core, press the pubic bone down, get really nice and long through the legs. And then as you next inhale, lift your right leg up off the mat. So it's not gonna go very high, but you're gonna feel the right half of your back kind of activating, and then gently place that down. Inhale, left leg lifts. And bring it down. So we're just going to move side to side a couple of times and really try to think about keeping your back relatively steady. So I want you to feel the work ideally mostly in your glute. Sometimes it helps to relax in between, squeeze your bum, and then really encourage your bum to kind of do the movement, to initiate the movement. Because often what happens here is that there are other muscles like in the lower back that will want to work first. And sometimes we have to kind of teach the glute, like, no, dude, this is your thing that you can do. Okay. So it's not a huge movement, just activating all along that line. Noticing if the two sides feel a little bit different. And then once you've done your last one on your left, just relax for a moment, and then we'll try to lift up both legs. So squeeze the glutes together first, and then initiate from the glutes to lift the legs. So it's not going to be very high. We're just activating that back line, keeping the upper body down for now. And relax, and you can give that bum a little bit of a shake from side to side. Okay. Engage the lower body, but you don't need to lift anything up right now, just for stability. Go ahead and interlace your fingers around behind your back. You could also use your strap here. If you're using your strap, just palms face down. Hug your elbows together, gently lift the chest and pull the fists away from your body. Get nice and long through the back of your neck. I'm just allowing that chest to open a bit. This is one of my favorite poses for if I've been sitting a lot. It really helps to reset that. Can be really nice for the digestion, sometimes nice for menstruation too, depending on how you're feeling. And let's gently release that, relax. And again, you can wobble the bum. Okay, last one here. And I'll give you something for those of you that are a little more ambitious, okay? So we're gonna engage the belly. Press the pubic bone down, shoulders back, interlace the fingers, lift the chest, and then also lift the legs. So the entire back line is engaged. Hug the inner thighs a little bit towards each other. And those of you feeling like, I feel really good today, I have energy, I want more, you can bend your knees, hold onto your feet, and bring this into bow pose. And if that's not making sense for you, just ignore that. Inhale, and then gently release and relax. Give your bum a little wiggle or just rest. And then when you're ready, we'll make our way into child's pose. If that felt like a lot and you need a couple of cat and cows before you can rest in child's pose, feel free to do that. Sometimes it's nice to just move some energy through before we come into stillness. And just whenever you're ready for it, settle your hips back. Knees as wide as you like them. Relax your forehead to the floor or on your stacked fists or on props. Arms can be forward, or maybe it feels nice to have them beside your hips right now. And take a few breaths into your back body. You can stay right here, or we can make this a little bit of a side stretch for the lower back. So if you'd like to try that, you can reach your arms forward and then off to the right. Palm can be down. Sometimes I like fingertips of the left hand down. Your right hand could pin down the palm or just be sort of a supporter here. Okay, leaning your left hip a little to the left and breathing into your lower back. When that feels complete, go over to the other side, reaching your hands off to the left. Right hand especially is reaching off to the left, maybe on fingertips if that works for you, or palm. Leaning your right butt a little to the right. And then gently back through center. Take a breath or two just right here. Whenever you feel ready, you can climb back up to your downward facing dog. We won't be here too long. I'm going to use it as a little transition to come to standing forward bend. So you can walk your feet up to your hands when you're ready, taking your feet hips distance, or they could be wider than that, bending the knees as much as you like. You could have elbows resting on thighs. That's nice and neutral for your back. You could dangle down, holding opposite elbows. You could have fingertips down. You could be moving, you could be in stillness. One that you might particularly like, especially because we haven't explicitly opened the hips up after that outer hip work, is just bending one knee at a time and allowing the stretch to move into the outer legs. And then take as much time as you'd like to roll up to standing. I like to do that by leaning back into the heels and gathering the belly in, so the head and shoulders can be really heavy. And the core is supporting the back as we rise. If that doesn't work for you, of course, you can come up with a flat spine. When you get to the top, you can take a moment to collect your shoulders on your back. You might find you need to fidget a little bit. You might find that you're right there in stillness. Just taking a moment to receive. We've done a lot of work in our bodies, but we haven't actually stood up yet. So just take a moment to notice what it feels like to be standing. Okay, beautiful. So let's just do a little bit of standing work today. So go ahead and step your right foot back behind you. We're going to come into a nice high lunge. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a super long stance, but I'd love your heel to be up nice and high, and you can start by bending both of your knees. It helps to draw the tailbone down with the back knee bent, and then try to keep the tailbone long as you work the back leg towards straight. So ideally, you're feeling a stretch in the front of the back thigh around the hip flexor region. Okay, and then you can stay right here. You can reach the arms up to the sky. Sometimes I like Vajramudra, so interlacing the fingers except for the first one. And that might just give you a little bit of a different feeling around your balance. Just exploring that. Try to lift the back of your ribs up, even as your chest rises and your shoulders release. Beautiful. And then gently open your arms and allow your back heel to land. You can straighten your front leg, and I'm aiming for triangles. So my legs, I just need to adjust them a bit. I want roughly front heel in line with the back arch here. Or heel to heel alignment works well for some people. I want to aim my hip, my knee, and my toes all in the same direction. So that means my hips are going to be tilting a little bit sort of forward and down. Okay. Then I'm going to lean into that. You can reach the left arm forward, place the fingertips on the shin, and then gently turn your heart open to the sky as the right arm rises. Okay, so press into the legs. I find the glutes quite helpful here. You can squeeze them a little bit and slightly press the hips forward. And there's a bit of a twist as the hips are turning down, the chest is turning up. It doesn't look like a twist, but again, directionally, there is a little bit of that going on. If your hand is on your leg, you want it to be light enough that you could easily lift it up, okay? And I actually find it quite helpful to press the shins slightly into the hand. You can stay right here, or we can add a little bit of a neck stretch. So you can do this by reaching your top hand towards the back of your mat, so the palm is hovering over the hip, or even taking a half bind, wrapping the arm around your lower back. Draw the shoulders onto your back and then release some of the weight of your head. You can move it around a little bit, turning the chin down or up. You're going to have different experiences. Just softening the neck, very gentle, not pulling. And then gently look down, rise on up, and simply step to the top of the mat. You can bring your hands together at your heart, maybe over top, maybe again, stillness or some fidgeting. And then let's take that to the second side. So go ahead and step your left foot back into that high lunge, and you might just be kind of adjusting the length of the stance as you go. I find my high lunges are usually relatively short. Maybe if I stay in them longer, I can kind of work them a little bit deeper. So bending both knees, squaring the hips, tailbone draws down, and then work the back leg towards straight, keeping that length in the tailbone. So again, my goal is to really feel the stretch at the front of the thigh, ideally. You can stay here, you can reach your arms up. If you like that Vajramudra, you can try that. Back heel is nice and lifted. So there's actually an element of a foot stretch here. We're not trying to get really stock still in a pose. We're trying to stay curious about how the pose is feeling as we stay in it. So allow yourself to breathe and think about breathing into the back ribs. Can you lift your chest while having the shoulders soft? And soft doesn't mean the same thing as collapsed, right? Can you deepen your shoulders into their sockets? And then go ahead and open your arms and allow that back heel to land, coming into your triangle prep. Front heel in line with the back arch or heel to heel, so adjust as you need to. And then point your knee, hip, and foot all in the same direction. So there's a slight turning down of the hips. And then reach forward with that right hand, place the fingertips lightly, left arm rises. Squeeze the bum a little bit to help, turning the heart open to the sky. And press the shin a little bit into the hand if you have some contact there. You want to always feel like you could lift your hand and nothing else would change. Beautiful. Okay, and then we can add that little bit of a neck stretch if it worked for you on the other side. So you can reach your top arm towards the bottom of your mat, hovering the hand over the hip, or wrap it around your lower back. Get nice and long through the sides of the neck, shoulders down, and then soften some of the weight towards the earth. Maybe moving the head around a little bit, maybe keeping it still, just gentle, not pulling. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, look down, bend into the knee, gently rise back up and simply step forward, hands at heart or over top, maybe fidgeting, maybe resting, just taking a moment. Beautiful. Okay. From here, let's widen the feet apart and come towards a squat so you can turn the toes out. And then sink the hips. And if you're comfortable just coming right down into a full squat, that's great. You might find that you need to sit on something like a block. It really helps some people to have a couple low blocks under the heels, or you could even use a rolled up yoga mat underneath both of your heels. Or you can just sit down if this isn't working for you. Okay, we'll meet you there in a moment. Pressing the elbows into the thighs, lifting the heart. Again, allowing the lower back to get nice and long. And then when you're ready, we'll sit down. So you can bring your hands around behind you, butt to the floor. After squat, I often like to do just a little bit of a windshield wiper. You can also extend your legs out and give them a little shake. And then you may want to have a seat on a little low cushion. We're going to do a little bit of hip opening in a seat. There are lots of ways to do hip opening. So if you know you have your favorite ways, please feel free to do that. Okay. Otherwise, you can come with me. So I'll mirror you for this part, but we'll just do both sides. So if you're doing the other side, it really doesn't matter. Okay. So go ahead and take your right ankle onto your left thigh. This might be plenty. Okay. You can also take your hands behind you and just bend up your left knee until you start to feel a bit of a stretch. The more you press your heart towards your shin, the more of an opening you'll feel in that outer hip, which is that area that we worked before when we were doing our butt core stuff. Okay, so lifting the heart, breathing here, maybe rocking from side to side. This is a beautiful place to stay. Some of you might find that you're comfortable in double pigeon. You can walk your bottom foot down so that the shins stack. And then there might be a forward fold accessible to you there. If that hurts your knees or feels unsafe or unsustainable at any point, just come on back to the cobbler shape. Wherever you are, breathe deeply. You're welcome to close your eyes and keep your feet flexed so that your knees are still staying protected. And then when you're ready, you can roll up if you're down. You can come back through that cobbler shape, and then we can gently slide the left leg long, then the right one, and take a nice wobble. When you're ready, let's do that on the second side. Left ankle comes to right thigh, maybe bending up the leg until you feel something. Fingertips behind you, and you want to kind of work with this nice open chest here. Trying to almost roll onto the fronts of your sit bones. Sometimes that little rock from side to side is really useful. And even if you know you're coming into the forward folded variation, just stay here for a couple of breaths, just kind of warming up the hip. And when and if you want to take it into double pigeon, you can walk that foot under so the shins stack. This is sometimes called box or square pose because you have this kind of box-like shape with the legs. Ankles and knees right in line with each other, feet are flexed. You can stay up high for sure, or there might be a forward fold available there for you. And again, if you get any red lights, if anything feels like, oh, not so good, just go back to that cobbler shape or wherever you know does work for you. Nice deep breaths wherever you are. And then if you feel ready to roll up, go ahead and do that. If you're down, you can come back through that cobbler shape, release the leg, release the other leg, give them a nice wobble. And then let's make our way to laying on our backs. And I'm gonna offer just one last symmetrical pose to help us prepare for Shavasana. If you have something specific that you wanna do in terms of that, please feel free to complete your practice as you need to. Otherwise, you can come into Happy Baby with me. So allowing the knees to go wide, soles of the feet to the sky, and just holding whatever feels accessible. So I'm holding my soles of my feet. I could also be holding my big toes. I could be holding my ankles. Whatever works is fine. And just rocking a little from side to side. And then gently releasing the legs. You can give them a little shake. And then prepare for your Shavasana. So some of you I know like a bolster under the thighs. That's lovely. Some of you like to keep the knees bent. You could also lay on your side or in some other shape if laying on your back doesn't work for you. And I'll just offer a nice little thing that you can do if you want to when you start getting prepared here, which is to bend your elbows up to the sky and take your hands into the flesh of either side of your spine near your neck. And then you're just going to drag your hands up along either side of your spine into the bottom of your skull. Gently lengthen the skull and place it down. You can do that a couple times if you want to. Just a little self neck massage that might feel really nice. Lengthening the spine. I'm just doing about 3. Add anything else that feels good for you here, of course. And then you can lay your arms down. You might want to just readjust a little bit, kind of tucking the shoulders under, wiggling the bum. You might want to rock or nod your head just to get that nice natural position for your neck to rest. And when you're in that most comfortable place that you could be, all you need to do is rest and receive. And if you're noticing that you want to stay longer and you know you have the time to do that, please feel welcome to. If you feel ready to make your way out of your Shavasana into the rest of your day, you can deepen your breath and bring some gentle, intuitive movements into your body. Eventually drawing in your knees and rolling over to one side. And then pressing up to a seat. Hands at your heart or over top. Take a moment to bow your mind to your hands, honoring and acknowledging whatever it took for you to get here to your practice today. Honoring and acknowledging the long and complex lineage of teachers that is with us in our practice. Honoring and acknowledging the sacredness of the land. Thank you for sharing that with me.